I'm a big fan of the Roth IRA. You guys know that. However, there are some drawbacks. There are some disadvantages that every Roth IRA investor needs to know. I've got that and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. I'm a big fan of the Roth IRA. Lots of financial professionals are. I would say one of the things that makes us and our view uniquely different, So I would say an improvement and enhancement is it's not just blind, everyone should do a Roth, or if you fit this mold, everyone should do a Roth. You've got to base that on your comprehensive financial plan. All 6 areas of your financial life, and you've got to look at that each and every year or whenever there are big changes to your finances to say, well, which one's best, pre-tax or Roth, pre-tax or Roth. Now, advantage Roth when you're young, because you don't get a tax benefit on your contribution, but the money grows tax-free for you. And when you're young, you obviously have more time for those dollars to grow. So advantage Roth when you're young. Advantage Roth when you think your future tax rates will be higher. And it's hard not to think that, even though changing tax rates is an act of Congress. Congress and being in Congress is a popularity contest, and raising taxes is wildly unpopular. I get that. But what they've been doing, Congress, even though tax rates have actually come down, they've stayed very, very low, so they've introduced new taxes. They've introduced new taxes. And so advantage Roth, if you think tax rates might go up in the future, you'll be at a higher tax rate in the future, or there'll be new taxes in the future, advantage Roth. And then 3, advantage Roth when the market's down, right? Because the market being down hurts our feelings. But it also does one other thing. It increases your future expected rate of return. And we've been talking since COVID that, guys, markets are at a threatening level. Markets are pretty high. Markets are potentially inflated here. We could be in a bubble. Well, now that bubble is like coming back to reality. It hasn't popped yet. We haven't seen an absolute crash. Hopefully we don't, right? But that price to earnings ratio and the future expected returns, short term, it could get a lot worse before things get better. But that future expected return after the stock market decline or in the midst of a stock market decline, where do you want that future expected return to be? In an account that grows taxable, or do you want to avoid paying tax on all that rebound? I would say avoid it. Even if this gets worse and continues to hurt your feelings before it gets better, I'd want that rebound, as much of it as possible, as much as it makes sense, to happen in a tax-free account, i.e. the Roth. But done videos about this before because you need to know. Again, it's not blind like everyone. You've got to do a Roth no matter what the circumstance, like a lot of financial folks say. No, you've got to do planning and take a look and say what makes the most sense for you. While you're considering the Roth, or if your financial advisor reaches out and says, no, you need to shift to Roth, there are some distinct disadvantages that you need to be aware of. Some of these can be overcome, and I'm going to share that. Others are just features, okay? Saw an article recently from Investopedia talking about the disadvantages everyone needs to know about the Roth IRA, and I don't know if I would call them disadvantages. You just need to be aware of them, but we're going to go through them. First and foremost is not everyone can invest into a Roth IRA. You need to have earned income. You need to have wages. You can't just have rental income. You can't just have dividend income or a pension or Social Security. You've got to have wages in order to contribute to the Roth, but it can't be too much. And so that income limit is that first disadvantage. And most tax shelters have some limitations like this. So I don't know if I'd call it a disadvantage. It'd be a disadvantage if this only applied to the Roth and there were no other income limits or parameters for any other tax shelter. To me, this is just a feature, okay? But not everyone can contribute to a Roth. And the unique thing about that income limit is that's not just earned income. That's all of your income. So you could actually sell a property, and have a lot of capital gains, or have some other unique things happen where all of a sudden your income just poof went through the limit. You didn't really know it. So married filing jointly for 2022, that income limit is around $204,000 is where that starts, modified adjusted gross income. You'll still be able to contribute a little bit to a Roth IRA until your modified adjusted gross income is $214, and then you're not able to contribute to it at all. Individual tax filers, that income limit isn't half of that, it's a portion, but you've got to be aware of that. And that income limit can sneak up on you. You can be contributing monthly on an ongoing basis to a Roth IRA thinking everything's fine, and then all of a sudden you look and say, well, wait a second, my income's gone up or whatever, and all of a sudden you're past that limit. So to me, it's not a disadvantage, it's just a feature of being able to contribute to this tax shelter. You've got to be aware of, if you're going to be investing in a Roth IRA, you've got to be aware of that modified adjusted gross income limit. The second disadvantage, if you will, is the 5-year rule. And this might be a disadvantage, although the article and the author suggests it's a disadvantage when you're, I think they call it upper middle age, something like that, which is nice of them to say it that way. I would disagree with that. It, to me, just feels like another rule that you need to be aware of, but the 5-year rule means, and most people just think, well, when I turn 59 and a half, I can withdraw money from my retirement account without paying a penalty. I can avoid a penalty as long as I withdraw the money after age 59 and a half. That's sort of the deal that you make for 401ks, IRAs, that sort of thing. And Roth IRA has the same age requirement. But they add in another age requirement, and that is you have to, or not an age requirement, but another requirement. You have had to have had a Roth IRA for 5 years. For 5 years. Now, this is where it's often misunderstood, is it's not that you needed to have this particular Roth IRA for 5 years, or that the money that's currently in your Roth needs to sit there for 5 years before you can touch it. No, you just have needed to have a Roth IRA for at least 5 years. So one of the things, the easy way to overcome this is just open a Roth IRA right now. Right now. Just put $50 in a Roth IRA and start that 5-year clock. You won't even notice it, and then you won't have to worry about this, and you can go back to thinking about it the way you always thought about it, which is 59 and a half, okay? So if you right now say, well, wait a second, Mike, you just mentioned that first limit, and I make too much money. Well, then take some of your IRA, convert $100, convert 50, move a small amount from IRA to Roth. Now that is assuming you shouldn't move a big amount. Talk to your CFP about that, but just move a little bit. It's not, I mean, having an extra $50 on your tax return isn't going to wildly change things. So all of a sudden, convert just a little bit, and now you've got money in a Roth, and you're starting that 5-year clock. So that's how I would get around that. I would call it a feature. Maybe you could argue it's a disadvantage. The authors of the article actually said, well, it's a disadvantage if you're later in your years, where we already said that in order to contribute to a Roth, you've got to have earned income. So really, we're talking about someone later in their career. But here's the question: if you're later in your career, should some of your dollars, will some of your dollars still be able to grow for the long term? Yeah. When you retire, you don't take all of your money out of your investments and just put it in your pocket, put it in the bank. No. For many of us, at retirement, you're still going to have 20 years or 25 years left where you're going to be drawing dollars out. And typically, the Roth IRA are the last dollars you want to draw from so that you can have those dollars positioned to grow tax-free for as long as possible. So, 5-year rule, you've got to be aware of that with the Roth IRA. Open a Roth today if you don't have one. And then the final disadvantage, and I would just call it a feature that you need to be aware of, but the disadvantage mentioned in the article was that these are after-tax dollars. You don't get a tax benefit today. I know, that's not a disadvantage. That's a trade-off. You're making a trade-off. The pre-tax contribution that you're making, if you do pre-tax IRA, pre-tax Roth, something like that, you get a tax benefit today, but then you have to pay tax on all the money, the growth and your contribution out there in the future. That's the deal you're making. That's pre-tax. Roth, you are not getting a tax benefit today. And they're framing it as a disadvantage. It's just how the thing works. I don't think it's a disadvantage because all of the growth on those dollars, it's not taxable to you as long as you have had a Roth IRA for 5 years and 59 and a half when you draw that growth out. So to me, it's a trade-off that you're making. And that's why you got to make this decision every year. Which one makes the most sense, pre-tax or Roth? If you were in a situation where you were going to get the retirement savers credit, or you were going to be eligible for a avoiding or actually getting some premium tax credits for health insurance and avoiding having to pay those back or whatever it is, by having a little extra deduction on your tax return, then yes, it would be a disadvantage to use the Roth. If you're right on the threshold to getting a better tax credit or reducing your tax by having a tax deduction, then you need to do pre-tax. But in the instances where that's not the case, a Roth, having the fact that it's not deductible isn't a disadvantage. It's just a trade-off, just a decision. You're trading that tax, for giving or giving up that tax benefit today for avoiding the tax on all the growth in the future. So that's a little bit about the disadvantages. I would just call them drawbacks or some of the features of the Roth IRA that you need to be aware of as you're deciding with your CFP, should you Roth or should you pre-tax. Work with your certified financial planner every single year. And whenever things change, you might say, well, Mike, that's overkill. No, this is a tax decision. It's not an investment decision. It's a tax decision, and your tax situation can change all the time. It could stay the same as well. But any year, from one year to the next, tax rates could change, your income sources could change. If you have a big adjustment, new job, lost job, change of job, something like that, you've got to take a look and say, pre-tax or Roth. Work with your certified financial planner. Your investment salesperson, they might give you an answer. It's not the answer. You've got to work with a CFP that's doing comprehensive financial planning, looking at all 6 areas of your financial life. They're the ones that can help you with this. So work with your CFP. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well. Or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.